Oh, I could turn this down. There you go. So today we're going to read from Madhya Lila. This is the 7th chapter describing the Lord's tour of South India. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Jagannath Puri with many devotees, but he wants to go traveling on Sankirtan. And of course, his devotees don't want him to go. Or they all want to go traveling with him. But he said, no, I want to go alone. And but Nityananda Prabhu submitted that he should take at least one person with him, one brahmachari with him, to carry his water pot and his extra set of clothes, and Dr. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hands will be free for chanting his beads. This was an important point. Anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the request of Nityananda Prabhu to take one person. So it was recommended that Kala Krishna Das go with him. Then Mahaprabhu went to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to offer him respects and take his permission, even though he is the Supreme Lord and completely independent. But he is controlled by his devotees' love. So he goes to Sarvabhauma's house to beg permission. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very intelligent. He presented it, he made it seem like he needs to go south to look for his elder brother Vishwarup, who had taken sannyas and went south. But Mahaprabhu already knew that Vishwarup had left the planet, and gone back to Godhead. But he's acting as if he doesn't know. And by telling the devotees, I want to find my brother, then they will, because it's family, they would be sympathetic and let him go. So, here Mahaprabhu enters the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He said, my elder brother Vishwarup has taken sannyas and gone to South India, and now I must go and search for him. Please permit me to go, for I must tour South India. With your permission, I will return here very happily soon. Upon hearing this request, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became very agitated, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expected. Nobody wants him to leave Jagannath Puri. So Sarvabhauma became agitated, catch hold of the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he gave a sorrowful reply. He says, "After many, many births, due to some pious activity, I got your association. But now Providence is breaking this invaluable association. You're going away. If a thunderbolt falls on my head, or if my son dies, I can tolerate both of those things. But I cannot endure the unhappiness of your separation." The love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so deep. He said, "However, I know, my Lord, you are the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead, and certainly you will depart. I know that. But still, I'm begging you to stay here a few days more so that I can see your lotus feet before you go." Upon hearing Sarvabhauma's request, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relented, and he stayed there for a few days longer before departing. The Bhattacharya had eagerly invited Mahaprabhu to his home, and he fed him very nicely. The Bhattacharya's wife, whose name was Satimata, she did all the cooking. The narration of these pastimes are very wonderful. Later on in this book, I shall tell about this in elaborate details. But at present, I just wish to describe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South Indian tour. So after staying for 5 days at the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally asked his permission again to depart for South India. And after receiving the Bhattacharya's permission, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, and he took the Bhattacharya with him. Seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also begged his permission, Lord Jagannath's permission. And the priest in the temple immediately delivered some Mahaprasadam and a garland from the deities to Lord Chaitanya. Thus receiving Jagannath's permission in the form of a garland, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances, and in great jubilation he prepared to leave for South India. Accompanied by his personal associates and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu circumambulated the altar of Jagannath. In most, practically all the temples in India, when they're building a temple from scratch, they make it so that you can go around the altar. Like in our Mayapur temple, you can circumambulate the deities. And so in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu and his devotees circumambulated Lord Jagannath. Then while the Lord was going along the path to Alalanath, which was located on the seashore, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gave the following orders to Gopinathacharya. He said, "Bring 4 sets of loincloths and some outer garments I keep at my home, and also bring some prasadam of Lord Jagannath. You may carry these things with the help of a Brahmin." So while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was getting ready to leave, Sarvabhauma submitted the following at his lotus feet. He said, "My Lord, I have one final request, and I hope you will kindly fulfill it. In the town of Vidyanagara, on the bank of the river Godavari, there is a responsible government officer there named Ramananda Roy. Please don't neglect him, thinking that he belongs to a Sudra family and engaged in material activities. It is my request that you meet with him without fail. Ramananda Roy is a fit person to associate with you. No other devotee can compare with him in knowledge of the transcendental mellows. This is a big praise of Ramananda Roy by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a big scholar, but he knew Ramananda Roy before. He said, he is the most learned scholar as well, and he is an expert in devotional mellows. Actually, he is most exalted. And if you talk with him, you will see how glorious he is. When I knew him, when I met him in the past, I couldn't realize who he was. In fact, I made fun of him simply because he was a Vaishnava. But by your mercy, you see, now Sarvabhauma has been converted to Vaishnavism. Before he was an impersonalist. So he says, now by your mercy, I can understand the truth about Ramananda Roy. So, you please meet him and talk with him, and you will also acknowledge his greatness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's request that he meet with Ramananda Roy. Bidding him farewell, the Lord embraced him, and he asked Bhattacharya that while he is engaged in devotional service at his home, he asked his blessings. And he said, I will return to Jagannath Puri by the Lord's mercy. Saying this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu turned around and departed to go on tour. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately fainted and fell to the ground. And although he fainted, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not take notice of him. Just kept walking. Who can understand the mind and intention of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Prabhupada comments, it was expected that when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya fainted and fell to the ground, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have taken care of him and waited for him to regain consciousness. But instead, he just walked away. Who can understand the mind and intentions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? This is the nature of the mind of an uncommon personality. Sometimes it is soft like a flower, and sometimes it's as hard as a thunderbolt. Srila Prabhupada was also like that. Sometimes he would be very soft and gentle, but sometimes with his leader he would be as hard as a thunderbolt. So Lord Nityananda, who was nearby, he lifted Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and with the help of some others, took him to his home. Afterwards, Gopinathacharya came with garments and prasadam for Lord Chaitanya. And all the devotees followed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to a place known as Alalanath. There they offered him prayers and respects. In great ecstasy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted for some time. Indeed, all the neighboring people came to see him. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also known as Gaura Hari, people began to shout the holy names of Hari. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, immersed in his usual ecstasy of love, danced in the midst of them. The body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was naturally very beautiful. It was like molten gold dressed in saffron cloth. Indeed, he was most beautiful, being ornamented with the ecstatic symptoms, which caused his hair to stand on end and tears to swell in his eyes and his body to tremble and perspire all over. Everyone present was astonished to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and his bodily transformations. And in fact, whoever came and saw him didn't want to go back home. They just wanted to stay with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone, including children, old men and women, began to dance and chant the names of Krishna and Gopal. In this way, they all floated in the ocean of love of Godhead. Upon seeing this chanting and dancing, Lord Nityananda Prabhu predicted that later on there will be chanting and dancing in every village and every town. The Prabhupada comments, this prediction of Nityananda Prabhu is applicable not only in India, but also all over the world. And it is now happening by His grace. The members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness are now traveling from one village to another in the Western countries. They are even carrying the deities with them, and they distribute various literatures all over the world. We hope that these devotees who are preaching the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will very seriously follow strictly in his footsteps. If they follow the rules and regulations and chant minimum 16 rounds daily, their endeavors to preach the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will certainly be successful. Seeing that it was already getting late, Nityananda Prabhu, the spiritual master, sometimes it is said that he's the original spiritual master, invented a means to disperse the crowd. And when Lord Nityananda Prabhu took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch at noon, all the people came running around them. After finishing their baths, they returned to the temple. Admitting his own men, Nityananda Prabhu closed the outside doors so nobody else can get in the temple. Gopinathacharya then brought some prasadam for the two lords to eat, and after they ate, the remnants of the food was distributed to all the devotees. Hearing about this, everyone came to the outside door of the temple and began chanting, Hari, Hari! Indeed, there was a tumultuous sound. After lunch, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made them open the door. This way everyone received his audience with great pleasure. The people came and went all evening long, and all of them became Vaishnava devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then spent the night there, and he discussed the pastimes of Lord Krishna with his devotees with great pleasure. Next morning, after taking his bath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started on his South Indian tour. So he's leaving Alalanath. bade farewell to the devotees by embracing them. And although they all fell to the ground unconscious, the Lord did not turn around to see them, but proceeded onward. In separation, the Lord became very disturbed, but he kept walking on. And unhappily, his servant Krishnadas, who was carrying his water pot, followed closely behind him. All the devotees remained there and fasted for the rest of the night. But the next day, they all unhappily returned to Jagannath Puri. Almost like a mad lion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on his tour, filled with ecstatic love and performing Sankirtan wherever he went. This is entering South India. He was chanting Krishna's name as follows. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Parimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Parimam. The meaning of this prayer is, Lord Krishna, please protect me and maintain me. And in the last two lines, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, he's saying, O Lord Ram, descendant of King Raghu, please protect me. And O Keshava, killer of the Keshi demon, please maintain me. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted this verse all along the way. And as soon as he saw someone, he would request that person to chant Hari Hari. Whoever heard Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanting, they also chanted the holy name of Hari and Krishna. In this way, they all followed the Lord, very eager to see him. After some time, the Lord would embrace these people and ask them to return home after investing them with spiritual potency. Srila Prabhupada gives a little purport. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this spiritual potency is the essence of the pleasure potency and the eternity potency of the Lord. By these two potencies, one is empowered with devotional service. Lord Krishna himself, or his representative, the unalloyed devotee, can mercifully bestow these combined potencies upon anyone. Being thus endowed with such potencies, one can become an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. And anyone favored by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thus empowered with this Bhakti Shakti. Thus, the followers of the Lord were able to go and preach Krishna consciousness by divine grace. Being thus empowered, they would return home to their own villages, always chanting the holy name of Krishna, sometimes laughing, crying, and dancing. And these empowered people used to request everyone in their village, whoever they saw, they requested them to chant the names of Krishna. In this way, all the villagers would then also become devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Simply by seeing such empowered individuals, people from different villages would become just like them by the mercy of their glance. And when these individuals returned to their villages, they also converted everyone into devotees. And when others came to see them, they were also converted. In this way, all those people from one village to another in South India became devotees. Thus, many hundreds and hundreds of people became Vaishnavas as they passed the Lord on his way and were embraced by him. In whatever village Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed to accept alms, people would come to see him. And by his mercy, everyone became a first-class devotee. Later they became teachers or spiritual masters. In this way, they were liberating everyone. In this way, the Lord went to the extreme southern part of India, and he converted all the provinces to Vaishnavism. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest this spiritual potency while he was at Navadvip, but he manifested them in South India and thus liberated all the people there. Prabhupada gives an explanation. At the time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip, there were many Shmarta Brahmins, non-devotees, followers of Vedic ritualistic ideas. And this was also the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But these people, most of them were non-devotees. And their main business was just following strictly the Brahminical principles. However, they were not enlightened in devotional service. In Navadvip, all the learned scholars were followers of these Shmarta Brahmins, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not attempt to convert them. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of this book, has remarked that the spiritual potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not manifest at Navadvip as it was by his grace in South India. By this, it is to be understood that people are really interested in preaching in a favorable situation. If the candidates for conversion are too disturbing, then a preacher may not attempt to spread Krishna consciousness amongst them. It is better the preacher go to a situation that is more favorable. This Krishna consciousness movement was first attempted in India, but the people in India, being absorbed in political thoughts, didn't take to it. They were entranced by the political leaders. Therefore, we preferred to come to the Western countries. Following the order of our spiritual master, and by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this movement is becoming successful. It's amazing that Prabhupada was there in India and he tried to get something going. In Jhansi, he started a temple there, but eventually he left it. As he says here, people were just too absorbed in politics. They weren't interested in hearing Harikatha. So he came to the West. And people thought, when Prabhupada was coming west, they thought he'll not be able to do anything there, because those people are all materialists, mostly meat eaters and drunkards. But Prabhupada, that didn't stop him. He came and he preached and he began accepting disciples in New York City. And the rest is history. Now there's temples all around the globe, in countries where people never heard of the name Krishna. Now we have temples there, thousands of devotees. Just for instance, Russia, when Prabhupada came to America, at that time Russia was fully communist country. But Prabhupada went there for a few days, and while there he initiated one Russian boy. And now there are thousands of Russian devotees. It is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Shakti Vinanahe Tara Pravartana. One who has Krishna Shakti, the potency of Krishna, he can spread Krishna consciousness anywhere. It can be understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's empowering of others can be understood by those who have received his mercy. If one does not believe in the uncommon transcendental pastimes of the Lord, he is vanquished in this world and in the next. This is the author continuing, whatever I have stated about the beginning of the Lord's tour of South India should be understood to hold for as long as he was in South India. He just converted so many people. When the Lord came to a holy place known as Kurma Kshetra, he saw the deity there and offered prayers and benedictions, and obeisances. Purport. The Kurma Stan is a well-known place of pilgrimage. There is a temple there of Kurma Dev. Kurma Dev is the Lord, one of his incarnations in the Das avatars. The Lord appeared, incarnated in the form of a tortoise. But that doesn't mean he's still the Supreme Lord. Keshava Drita Kurma Sharira Jaya Jagadisha Hari. While at this place, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in his usual ecstasy in love of God, laughing, crying, dancing, chanting, and everyone who saw him was astonished. People were coming from everywhere to see him, and when they saw the beauty of the Lord and his ecstatic condition, they were all struck with wonder. Just by seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became a devotee, and they began to chant Hare Krishna. They were all merged in great ecstasy of love and began to dance, raising their arms. Always hearing them chant the holy names of Krishna, other people became Vaishnava in those villages. So he started something and it just kept going from place to place. By hearing the holy name of Krishna, the entire country of South India became Vaishnavas. It was as if the nectar of the holy name had overflooded the entire country. After some time, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his external consciousness, a priest from the Kurma temple gave him various offerings. In one village there was a Vedic Brahmin named Kurma, and he invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home with great respect and devotion. The Brahmin brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home, washed his lotus feet, and the Brahmin, along with his family members, drank that water. So they washed Mahaprabhu's feet. With great affection, this Brahmin and his family made Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat all kinds of food. And after that, the remnants were shared by all the members of the family. The Brahmin began to pray to Lord Chaitanya, saying, "My Lord, your lotus feet are meditated upon by Lord Brahma, and now those same lotus feet have come into my home. There is no limit to my great fortune. Today my family, my birth, my riches have all been glorified. My dear Lord, kindly show me favor and let me go with you." Now he wants to leave home. "I can no longer tolerate the misery caused by materialistic life." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "Don't speak like that. It's better to you remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna always." This Brahmin wants to go traveling with Mahaprabhu. But Mahaprabhu says, "No, you stay home and chant." Prabhupada gives a purport. This statement by the Brahmin is applicable for everyone, regardless of how rich or prosperous one may be. Narottam Das Thakur, the Acharya, has sung Samsara Bishanale Divanishi Hiya Jale Juraite Nakoino Yupai. Narottam says that materialistic way of life only causes burning in the heart. One cannot make any provisions for the troublesome life of the material world. It is a fact that one may be very happy as far as riches are concerned. One may be very wealthy in every respect, but yet one has to manage the demands of his body and so many family members and subordinates. One has to take so much trouble to minister to others. Therefore Narottam prayed, Bishaya Chariya Kavi Shuddha Hobe Mon. Thus one must become freed from the materialistic way of life. One has to merge himself in the ocean of transcendental bliss. In other words, one cannot relish transcendental bliss without being freed from the materialistic way of life. It appears that this Brahmana named Kurma was materially very well off, for he expressed that his family tradition was wealthy. Now, being glorified, he wanted to leave all these material opulences behind, and he wanted to travel with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the Vedic civilization, one should leave his family after attaining the age of 50 and go to the forest of Vrindavan and devote the rest of his life to the service of the Lord. However, it is not advisable in this age of Kali to leave one's family suddenly, because people are not trained as proper brahmacharis and grihastas. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the Brahmana not to be so eager to give up family life. It would be better to remain with his family and try to become purified by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra regularly under the direction of a spiritual master. This is the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if this principle is followed by everyone, there is no need to accept sannyas. In the next verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises everyone to become ideal householders by offenselessly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and teaching the same principle to everyone they meet. I think we have come to the end of our time. The next verse is a famous verse. We'll save it for next week. Chaitanya Charitamrita is like that. You can keep going on and on and on. The pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are wonderful. And Srila Prabhupada said, when he was coming to America on the boat, reading Chaitanya Charitamrita was his only solace. It's here in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So, we shall stop there for today. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Now there's prasadam. There you go.
Very cheeky, his companions.
Yeah.
He liked them. Because
Yeah.
he knew, but he made
Yeah.
like he didn't.
I have to see my brother. He knows that he said I gotta go visit my family because they're all mostly family men.
Transcendental cheating.
Yeah, they will sympathize with them. But they were all agitated.
Yeah,
They didn't want him to go. Sarvabhauma, he told the
yeah.
other
No,
devotees,
cheating, you try
yeah.
to.
I mean, you can't blame them. They don't want him to go. But Sarvabhauma said, Mahaprabhu told the other devotees that lie, and then he comes to Sarvabhauma and he tells him the same lie. It's a strategy so he can get away. But he had previously found out. Where was he? He was somewhere else. And he found out that his brother had passed away and gone back to Godhead. So he knew that.
In Pandharpur.
Yes.
Yes.
But he knew that. But he's using it. He's not telling them that. He's acting as if he doesn't know his brother.